Hi guys, welcome back to another video of Tamba's Guide to Not Effing Up A-Level Biology. Today we're going to be doing ecosystems, which in my opinion is the worst topic on the A-Level syllabus, and if you don't agree with me, then fight me, literally fight me. Because this topic, I mean it's biology, but I personally don't enjoy it that much. Oops. That's generally because I don't consider myself I consider biology to be more biochemistry, which is arguable. So, because this topic is a bit different to the other ones, I'm going to have a few notes here. And that's because I want to make sure that all of my definitions are accurate. They could ask you these in the exam. And I don't want my definitions to be dodgy. So, let's begin. What we're going to do is, we're going to start off with a scenario. So, let's say this is, I don't know, a piece of land. And let's say we have a bunch of chickens here. I'm going to denote the chickens as a star. So I'm too lazy to draw out a chicken. I would absolutely slaughter it. Get it? I would slaughter the drawing. Bad joke. Anyway, so bunch of chickens here. And let's say KFC created this ecosystem. Let's say that KFC needed to populate a bunch of chickens to make fried chicken. And this is effectively their ecosystem. Now, this is the first definition that you'll need to know. Ecosystem. What is an ecosystem? Well, an ecosystem, I'm going to get my notes out. An ecosystem, ecosystems are defined as the dynamic system that are made up of communities. So, let's just write it down and I'll explain in a bit. Dynamic systems that are made up of communities. So let's break that word down. Well, selection of words. I'm getting the pen. There we go. Dynamic effectively refers to changing. And you'll see throughout this topic that populations do drastically change over time. And that could be for a variety of reasons, like the population so for example, that particular species going extinct while another species takes it over, and that competition, which we're going to go over just like very briefly over this video, is why we define ecosystems as being dynamic in that sense. Next word that we'll need to break down is communities. I'm going to write a definition for this one as well. This topic is sadly very definition, remember, like not very understanding kind of topics. You just need to learn what they tell you. And if you don't, then you're not going to do well. So let's do communities. And when I think of communities, I think of like, you know, I don't know, if I go to the mosque or something and then I have my like local community there, or like even in my local area. And what are communities made up of? Well, if you think about it in a literal sense, you'd obviously have other people. You could also interpret like the buildings or maybe like stuff inside being part of the community. That's more of like a metaphorical, personified version of it. But technically, they are part of the community. If you bring in a pet, they're also part of the community. Bring in food, I mean, part of the community, I'm there for the free food, so like, part of the community. So I'm going to link that definition over to the ecosystem part, and communities effectively refer to all of the biotic and abiotic components of an ecosystem. Biotic and abiotic, I'm just going to write the definitions here. If you just don't know them, I'll just put them on the side. So, biotic, abiotic. I'm just going to get the proper definition out. Where is it? There we go. Right, so biotic refers to living organisms or living components. And abiotic refers to non-living components. The way I like to remember these, because you can just see I just got confused, and that's totally okay. Living, biology refers to living. Abiotic, just think if that's non-living. You have the A over there, like the opposite of that word. So just remember, you have bio there, so it's living. Abiotic, non-living components. And if we link that back to the definition of community, that refers to all the living and non-living parts of an ecosystem. So, in this scenario, let's do another definition and we'll get into this KFC scenario a bit more. The next definition that we'll need to know is population. Population, like, you should have encountered it at GCSE. I didn't, because my school basically cut off everything with regards to ecology. Great decision. But anyway, population, probably why I'm struggling with this topic right now. Can't spell it. Population. So a population refers to organisms of the same type. I'm going to do that in another colour because I need to signify that importance. They have to be the same type. Pen doesn't even work. I need to invest in better pens, right? Organisms of the same type I'm just going to refer back to my book here. That's totally okay. Okay, there we go. Of the same type that occupy a habitat at one particular time and one more thing you need to know is that these organisms could potentially interbreed. I'm just going to make sure I write that down correctly. I don't want any dodgy definitions. Yeah, that's all fine. So, pretty self-explanatory. Population. Logically speaking, you know what it means. In the exam, you need to write what they want you to write. So, refers to organisms of the same type that occupy a habitat or a particular habitat at one particular time. These organisms could potentially interbreed. So here we have a population of chickens for KFC. I could add another population in if I wanted to. What else does KFC serve apart from chicken? They don't serve beef. They serve haram items. They serve pork. So let's say this is a UK KFC, non-halal, and we have a bunch of pigs here as well. You'll see why I did this when we look at the other definitions. But in this scenario, we currently have two different populations. We have a population of chickens, KFC. We have a population of pigs for KFC bacon. So, yeah. So that refers to population. The next thing we're going to talk about is habitats. That links in quite well with the habitat part over there. Habitats. And that's pretty self-explanatory. Basically, the area in which an organism resides. I'm going to verify that for you. Yeah, that's fine. Another thing you could like know is that as well as having habitats, you can have these things called microhabitats. Sorry, I got a cough. And microhabitats are, let's say, like at the end of a river stream, there's like a small habitat of bacteria living there. Within that whole big habitat of having the river and a bunch of soil around it, you have this small habitat at the mouth of the river, for example, that are home to bacteria, and bacteria are awesome. So, yeah, apart from habitats, you have micro habitats. That links in well with the fact that they occupy a particular habitat with regards to the population. Remember, the population, we always refer to that as the same type of organism. So when we're referring to the population of chickens, it's only that species of chicken. We're not referring to anything else like, I don't know, yellow chickens or something. Do they exist? I don't think yellow chickens exist. And with regards to the population, there's this concept of carrying capacity. And carrying capacity refers to, I'm going to get out that definition again. Oh, right. An ecosystem supports a certain size of population known as the carrying capacity. So, supporting a certain size of a population, and I would also add, and their needs. Pretty important stuff. You can think of carrying capacity as kind of like, I don't want to say safe, never use this word in an exam, but like just for understanding, I would say like the safe number of people, like organisms that can live in an area and inhabit in that particular habitat in a peaceful manner. So for example, like having enough food for everyone, enough area for mating, for example, things like that is what a carrying capacity can influence. So use that specific definition over there, supporting a certain size, supporting a certain size of a population and their needs. So you can kind of read through it now. I'm not going to go over it. It's pretty much a lot of definitions. The next part is going to be niches. By the way, I'm going to be using this KFC example throughout this whole topic, well, as much as I can, because it's Ramadan right now and I'm actually starving, so yeah, I'm clearly hungry. Okay, niches. Is there an apostrophe? I don't know. Someone will correct me anyway. Niches. You can think of niches as, why is the organism there in the first place? What is the organism there to do? And you can think of it as the organism's purpose for being in that particular habitat. Getting out the definition. A niche describes how an organism belongs into its environment. It refers to where the organism lives, what it does there, and how it's adapted to the biotic or abiotic factors. So it basically describes, I don't want to say what it does. How an organism belongs, that's the proper terminology. So how an organism belongs in a particular environment, and how it has adapted to survive its environment's biotic and abiotic factors. That's what I would say. So back to our examples of chickens. You could say that KFC will breed a population of chicken that doesn't have their beaks or anything in them. And that's more of a selective breeding kind of thing, but like, that was actually a very bad example. Let's forget all of that. Let's say those chickens are just adapted to live in this KFC environment. What adaptations would they have? So some of the features they could have, like apart from adaptations, which kind of links into it, could be, I don't know, thick bodies. You want a lot of chicken, so you could have organisms that have a lot of thick bodies. And why do you think we have a lot of those thick bodies? Because they don't have predation. That is a biotic factor, which links into this quite well. So no predators. And if you think about it in a natural selection way, if you had a bunch of KFC chickens that were fat and a bunch of KFC chickens that were thin, and the fat ones, well, they could just live because although they run a bit slower because they're fat, the lack of predation means that they won't be consumed, and eventually, due to other abiotic or biotic influences, the population of thin chickens could actually wean out, which is why you could have a high population of thick-bodied chickens, and that can explain the niche behind that organism and how it's adapted to be in those biotic and abiotic influences. That's effectively what a niche is. What else do we have to talk about? Okay. Things that can affect, like the growth of an organism. By the growth of an organism, I'm specifically referring to the population itself. So, let's talk about... you can clearly see I'm not enjoying this topic as much as my other videos, and that's because this is such a boring topic. It's a lot of definitions that you just need to remember, which is why I advise that you start revising these quite early. Okay. So in a population like this KFC example, we are talking about the concept of carrying capacity. And you can think of that as, in simple terms, the maximum amount of organisms a particular habitat can hold. Let me look at the real definition actually. I had it here somewhere. Okay, let's pretend that is the right definition. There are some limiting factors you need to know, and those are things that can stop the growth of a population of a particular species. If we look at the graph here, usually if a population starts to take over a specific geographical area, we'd expect it to look exponential like this, because there wouldn't be any predation, there wouldn't be any other factors affecting it. Whereas it usually looks a bit like this, and it plateaus over here. And that's because of these carrying capacity limitations and these factors. So you have abiotic factors, and these will particularly refer to, like the ones we will talk about, they link in quite well with these. So abiotic and biotic factors. Things that link into it: pH. pH is abiotic, it's not a living thing, so it goes there. Temperature, that's also non-living, it goes over there. Predation, that's biotic. Predation goes there. What other examples did I have? Light intensity, I like that one. Light. And that's also abiotic. Light isn't living, it's just a bunch of photons. And water sources as well, so that's more of an abiotic thing. So with regards to the carrying capacity, these are the two main themes which can inhibit a population growth. Things like light intensity, water availability, population, predation, pH, temperature, and other things, they could clearly affect the growth rate of a population itself. I think that's all we're going to do for today. I think I'm not going to do competition yet, just because I feel like I should read over a bit more and just really try and get this topic in my brain. But yeah, that's the end of this video. I hope it helped. Happy Ramadan.